Hi, Sagittarius. This is your reading for the week of September 22nd, or when it resonates with you. Now, what I saw as I was starting to pull your cards, or to sit down to do your cards, I should say, was you on a bucking bronco. And it was not really a rodeo, but it had that quality of there being a lot of attention around you riding this bucking bronco. And so as I'm looking at this, what I'm feeling for you, Sagittarius, is that there is a lot of energy that is being expelled that you're having to manage. That somehow you're supposed to be managing everything. And that this is, you're getting thrown around emotionally by this bucking bronco. Now, of course, this will not be for every Sagittarian. And what I'm getting here, so this, you may not be in this situation right now. This may not be for you. But this reading goes for more than just that person or those people who are going through a tumultuous time. Because what Spirit is talking to me about is the patterns from childhood that can create situations where you find yourself in a situation now where there's a lot going on that you need to manage. But that part of the reason why you are in this position now is because you grew up believing as though it was always your job to manage. And therefore, what you ended up doing was creating situations, making choices where you took on people and situations that you had to manage. You kept that pattern going. So the other thing I'm getting here is when in childhood, there is a difficult situation in the home and you are dealing with it in a way where you're trying to keep the crazy down. You're trying to keep things level and status quo. Sometimes what we will do as children is we will befriend or try to befriend the person that is the most disruptive, that is creating the chaos. And what that does is it really creates a bond. But if that is, and we'll befriend and love and try to offer love in order to try to maintain and manage a situation. That doesn't mean that the person is always receptive to it. Sometimes they are, but they're not always. But what it can do is it can create that attachment to that role, that taking on of that role. Sometimes it is helpful, and you get therefore to kind of grow up being the caretaker because of that. It's worked before, so you'll do it again. For some people, it hasn't worked. And the caretaking then becomes this constant trying to find a way to make everything better. Not just a relationship, but things in general. Every relationship, every situation. The caretaker that can be, it can be where it can be a profession. Often it can be in a profession. Now, and they're not mutually exclusive to each other. They can be the same. Well, what you're being asked to see now, my very dears, is this. You're being asked to really focus on the fact that there is another you, that there is a higher part of you, that a lot of the reason you're on the bronco and you're feeling tossed around by it is because that is where you're coming at it from your personality. That is where you're coming at it from That is where you're coming at it from the personality perspective. Now, I have to address this before I lose it. And it is this. We often create relationships when we are younger based on the coping patterns that we developed as children. Coming out of the family, we take on certain roles. We take on certain behaviors that worked to help us cope with that situation. So we'll often create relationships with lovers, with family, with children, with siblings, that are based on that old personality. And it's not until we evolve ourselves enough to move beyond those roles where we realize, it's too tight, this doesn't fit, or it's exhausting me, or wait a minute, I'm feeling taken advantage of, that we really get to look at that and say, what is the personality structure? What is the belief system that created this? And you're being told there are a couple of things here. You've got such incredible cards. Okay. The first card that came up was the Pride card. And this goes along with pride being something that we can use as a way to kind of support us in continuing that behavior that we did as a kid, that we learned that behavior. It's kind of like, I can do it. I'm strong. I'm this. I'm that. But what it can do, if we live in that energy too much, what it can do is it can prevent us from being able to see our vulnerabilities and what's really going on inside. And it can also prevent us from really see what's going on with the other situation. Because if we're in a state of feeling like, because it can work both ways, right? The idea of feeling proud of it kind of goes hand in hand with needing to manage, needing to handle, being able to. They kind of go together in a way. So let me try to make that more specific, more clear. As children, when we are able to maintain some certain kind of stability because of our way of thinking, it gives us a sense of strength, and it gives us a sense of being able to cope. Our coping strategies come out of that. So when we proceed in life and we apply those coping strategies in a way that works, we do feel proud. But what it can do is, because we're focusing on our own coping strategies, which have worked and are currently working, we tend to blind ourselves to the things that aren't working for us, for the higher us, for the bigger us, because we're still focused on that child coping mechanism. Right? So I hope that's clear. What happens is, as we grow, as we develop more resources and we don't need to rely on that coping mechanism, say being a caretaker, for example, then what happens now is we feel constricted with that energy. So what's happening now for many of you, I feel, is that you're coming face to face with some of the expectations, some of the behaviors, some of the attitudes that have grown out of that way of being that you dealt with, the coping mechanism that you dealt with. The structures around that are falling apart because they're no longer in alignment with who you've grown into being, right? So whoever and whatever, and it can be a job. Oh my gosh, I remember the day it struck me. It can be a job where you just all of a sudden you walk in and you go, this doesn't fit anymore. And it's like a lightning flash. I've outgrown this. I can't do this anymore. And you make a plan to get out. And that can happen with friendships. It can happen with relationships. It can happen with geographical locations. It's really, when you start feeling that resistance coming in on you, it's great. Like, it means you've grown to an edge. It does not always feel great because sometimes it involves endings that are painful. But what you got to realize is, excuse me, if you've been in any situation with what I would call a dovetailing pathology, and you're growing and the other person isn't, or the situation you are in isn't allowing for your growth, for example, a job, then at a certain point it's going to have to break because it's no longer in alignment with who you are. You're bigger than it. And sometimes it has to get really intense before you wake up. Because those old patterns, especially if they're based in loving and caretaking, it can seem absolutely crazy to give up on them for a long time. But what you're being asked is check in with that and understand that you are far more powerful than whatever that coping mechanism was, whatever the personality was that developed that coping mechanism, because there is a higher you. There is a you that is beyond your personality and beyond all the coping mechanisms. And that is what you are leaning into, Sagittarius. That is what you are growing into. This is no more about you feeling like you should be able to take care of it, because that's also pride. If you feeling as though you should have been able to manage it better or seen things differently, that's also pride in a way, right? This is about you understanding that there is way more going on here than just you, and you understanding that even if you think you know everything, you don't. There is this real suggestion, especially when it comes to handling how you make changes in any of these situations. There is a wisdom that is greater than you. There is a wisdom that's greater than your personality. That's your higher conscious mind. And there is a wisdom greater than that, and that is divine love. Now, power, we know, comes from the essential nature of who we are, which is a loving being. It's coming from a higher conscious self. It is not coming from the personality, okay? Think of personality, getting tossed about, bucking bronco. Think about peacefulness. Think about humility. Think about there's another you watching this whole thing, and move into that energy. Now, you're being asked in the process of this, really focus on that there is another you, that there is a higher part of you. It's not saying don't look at the emotions. Looking at your emotions in this are absolutely essential, because emotions are what help us understand who we have been, why we've been that way. But it's super, super powerful to allow yourself compassion in whatever this is, okay? You're not being asked to just give up and throw it away. You're being asked to surrender into it as it is, to get out of the resistance to what is. Because as you get out of the resistance to what is and move into surrender, that is an active place. That is you being able to say, this is what it is. Now I'm going to watch it play out. And by remembering where my power comes from, my true power comes from, and by knowing that there is higher wisdom at play here and at play involved in it, you can allow yourself to trust that there is going to be success. And you can trust that you're going to be able to know what you need to do as you do that, okay? As you're stepping through and as you're making these changes in your life and in your belief structure, all right? Now, chaos is a really interesting card that comes up. And it's really interesting because it also goes along with the drop the stress, drop whatever you can that's stressful, which is kind of good. Dropping the weight about what's stressful helps get you out of resistance. And it helps you surrender into watching what it is, watching it unfold, and trusting that you're going to know what you need to do for it. And that is here. Now, also chaos. Chaos is a very powerful energy. Chaos is said to be, well, when things break down into chaos, when structures break down, chaos can happen. A lot of energy is released, and it can be all over the place. And you're going, what the heck's going to happen? There's all these variables. Well, my dears, this is where you keep your eye on what it is you want, and you harness that energy from chaos. Your intention is going to help harness that chaos. Your intention, listen to this. They're just saying this. Your intention must be clear. Your intention must not only be clear, it needs to be highly anchored. Okay? Highly anchored. Okay, so by that what they mean is your intention must be anchored in good intention, with a desire for proper use of power from higher self, not from the force of your personality. It's engaging in higher force, okay? Higher force, higher being, higher energy, higher frequency. It's engaging in that. That seems super powerful here, super important. And anchored, yes. So it's also, you're being asked to please remember whatever the emotions are that you're dealing with, it ultimately has to come back to love. I know that sounds like so obvious if you're on this channel, but it ultimately has to come back to love. Love as the essence of everybody and everything. And the understanding, and there was something that just ran through my mind. What was it? I'll see if it's going to come back in a minute. That whatever this is that you're working with, you are really being given the opportunity to really allow the emotions that are coming up that are tossing you about on this ball. It's not pretending you're not there, okay? You are surrendering into the fact that sometimes you feel like you are on that bucking bronco. But you're being asked to remember within the context of that whatever comes up, this is a release of energy that is setting you free from the old rules, that is setting you free from the understanding of who you were and where your power was. This is what is allowing you to really tune into your higher nature in a big way. And when the structures that have not supported the higher you can no longer be sustained, they will break down. But part of what will come out of that breakdown is a deeper understanding of who you are, of where your power really lies, and who you are in this new vision of yourself. This new vision of yourself, Sag, this new vision of yourself. And it's a beautiful vision because it is you now being able to start every day deciding how you want to live your day. Not how you want to live your day to keep the peace, to organize things, to fit in. How do you want to live your day? What do you not want to experience today? What do you want to experience instead? Okay? And that is another thing that you anchor in every day. Okay? Every day. I'm going to leave you with that. It looks like this is a big growing time for a lot of you. And I see that there is a lot of support for you here in this. And a reminder, a real reminder from Spirit, connect with your spirit. Connect with your spirit and connect with Spirit because they're there for you in this. This is literally like they're calling you up. Okay? Mwah! Take care.